Welcome to The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. The Soul's Journey tells the story of everyday people who overcome life's toughest lessons and want to use their voice to share and give hope to others walking a similar path. These are stories of hope, stories of healing, stories of empowerment. So now, please welcome the host of The Soul's Journey, Tracy Escobar.
Hey, hey, hey! Hello, hello, hello! My name is Tracy Escobar. I am the host of The Soul's Journey, a brand new show right here on Bold Brave TV Network. Super excited to be here. We're kicking up our show fashionably late. Had a little bit of technical difficulties just kicking off, but that's okay. We're going to catch right back up. So again, I'm an evidential medium. I work out of the Dallas, Texas area and kind of nationally now. And I have created this show because I want to give people a voice. I really want to have normal people come on the show who's been through some really tough life lessons, some life experiences, and have come through on the other side, because I'm hoping to give people out there going through similar situations a little bit of hope, healing, and empowerment. You know, we're not going to make it out of this life without having some kind of trauma, without having some kind of issue. And so hopefully hearing the stories of the people and the guests that I have on the show will bring you some hope and give you some advice. We'll give you advice on how they survived it and came out the other side and what they're doing now on the other side of healing. So I'm super excited. I can't wait to kick everything off. This show is super important to me, not because it's just the first one, but because my life experience has had this piece of journey in it as well. And this is the first time I'll be talking about it publicly. So about 2.5 years ago, I had a adult daughter estranged from me, and it's been about 2.5 years. And then about November of last year, I had my second daughter estranged from me. So I am on the adult child estrangement journey, and it has been a roller coaster ride. And I met this person that I'm going to bring on the show in a Facebook group, actually a support group for mothers and parents who are kind of going through this journey as well. And I just loved her outtake. She does videos, she helps encourage people. So I asked her to come on the show. Let's talk about this journey. She's been on this journey for over 10 years plus. So before TikTok came out, before all the social media hoorah of the adult child estrangement has come out. And so I wanted to bring her on so she can give us some idea about her journey, how she's lived with it, how she's coped with it, how she's overcome it, and where she's at now. So without further ado, please welcome Laura Hendricks to the show. Hi, Laura.
Hi, how are
Oh,
you?
I am so good. And I'm so excited that you agreed to come on the show. I know it's a difficult topic to talk about, especially publicly, right? Because our adult children can be kind of nasty sometimes, especially if we have a voice or if we have a side that we want to talk about. So before I even get started, I just want to preface for any adult children who may run across this who's estranged from their parents, this is not to negate your experience at all. I come at this with a very spiritual view, and I know you guys are on a healing journey, and I know you have to do what you have to do. This is just coming from the parents' perspective, and especially the mama's perspective, because we have a perspective too. And sometimes we're not allowed to voice it, and we're not allowed to share it for fear of it hurting more, causing more damage, or causing more estrangement. But I want to give you a voice because it is our life, it is our experience, and it's hard. It's grieving. You know I've grieved, and I'm sure Laura's grieved. And so I just want to preface that we're not taking anything away from the estranged children. You're on your journey, but this is just from another view, another perspective. So with that, I welcome Laura. Laura, how long has it been since you have been estranged?
It has been over a decade, about 13 years for my estrangement from, just like you, both of my adult daughters. It
Mhm.
happened both around the time each of them was 19 years old. Um, and my oldest daughter would always say, "Oh, mom, when I can get my own place, I'm going to get my own place," because she liked her solitude and
Yeah.
I worked full time. I raised them, and one day I came home from work, and her laptop was not on the couch. I walked in her room. Her room was completely empty, except for her bed and a couple of hangers and things like that. And I sat on the floor and I just cried. And There was
Mhm.
no reasoning, no anything. So I asked my youngest daughter, I said, "Do you know where your sister went?" And she said, "No." And soon after, she confessed that she had been helping my oldest daughter move out and that
Wow.
they made the last move while I was at work. They had been piecemealing it where they take pieces at a time, and I didn't go in my oldest daughter's room, so I didn't know. And then not soon after that, my youngest daughter and I kind of started having it ended up being very tumultuous in my house with her not having a sense of respect for me. I would notice her go on the internet and post very hostile things about me. Back then it was on MySpace.
Okay.
So I
Mhm.
said to my youngest daughter, I talked to my therapist and I said, I don't think my youngest daughter and I should live together because it just is not not cohesive for us, not healthy for us. So he said, "Well, if you ask her to leave, she may disconnect as well." And unfortunately, after I asked her to leave and go stay with her dad to hopefully see the grass was not greener,
Yeah.
she disconnected as well, and it has been like this ever since.
So really no contact since the disconnection or some contact? Did it
Well,
fade? Yeah.
to make it short and sweet, there has been no contact from the youngest regarding reaching out to say hi, but the oldest came back after
Okay.
a number of years. She returned, and I said, "Why did you leave?" And she said, and I'll just be honest, she said, "We were afraid of you, you yelled at us." And I said, "Well, how often?" She goes, "Well, about once a week or once a month." And I said, "Well, I never abused you. You turned out to be decent children. You didn't get into trouble. And I was just trying to make sure you were staying on the right path. And I was raising you alone. And I'm sorry I raised my voice." And she came back for about 2 years. And in that time, we had an apartment together and I helped her get a car. And then her and I were on shaky ground again. And one day she took off with the car that I had a loan on and disappeared again. And that has been probably the last four, no, that was about 6 years ago that she
Okay.
took off. So there was a reconciliation for a time. And then she took off again because we were not seeing eye to eye on things just in general.
Right.
So
Typical teenage stuff though, right?
absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
typical.
So that's kind of there was a reconciliation and then she did leave again.
She did leave again.
And so since then, there has not been a reaching out at all.
Nothing. Zeros. Okay. So hard. So my heart goes out to you. I know the feeling
Mhm.
as well. Me and my daughter had a blow up right before Thanksgiving 2.5 years ago. We didn't see eye to eye on something, but my children, it was really interesting. Mine were so interesting. The synchronicity. So I come from it from a spiritual perspective a little bit. And mine both happened the same month in November, right
Oh,
at Thanksgiving, 2 years
really?
apart. Yes, crazy. The
Wow.
same month.
Yes.
So me and my daughter had a disagreement, and she sent me a text and saying I'm no longer coming to Thanksgiving or my birthday. I was throwing her a 30th birthday party. So my girls were both about to turn 30, and it happened both on their 29th, right about to turn 30. So my daughter turned 30 in December, and then my other daughter turned 32 years later in February, and she did it in November. So interesting. They did it the same month, the same age.
Mhm.
But what's more interesting, me and my middle daughter had no issues until they moved close together.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that happened. And then when that happened, we started having issues. And then all of a sudden, she's remembering childhood stuff or stuff that came up. And I'm just blown. It blows my mind. And so you can't help. And I know you probably got accused of this, of being defensive, because this came
Mhm.
out of left field for me. I was always
Yes.
that parent that they always came to. Everyone came to our house, all their friends. I was that house. How all of a
Yes.
sudden am I a bad parent, right? So I know you can relate to that. Yes?
Yes, because, and I'll be honest with you, because it's been so long, I had to think, what did I do? Could I have
What
done
did I
something
do?
different? Was I as terrible was I Ivan the Terrible, as terrible as what they said? And I
Yes.
recently, within the past 2 months, went to a craft fair, and sitting behind the table at the craft fair was a girl who spent
Mhm.
who spent time in our house. In fact, when her mom was homeless, her mom asked me to keep her in my house. So I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And I saw this girl, and her mom was also there, and she said, "I can't believe your daughters are doing this to you. You were a great mom." And I almost broke down and cried, because rarely anyone, not your children, will tell you,
Oh,
"FYI, you were a great mom, and I loved being at your house, and I felt safe there. You didn't do anything
yeah.
wrong." And I told her, "You lifted a boulder off of my shoulders, because for
Yes.
years I have lived with guilt, shame. What could I have done different? Had I stayed married, would they still be here?" But I got confirmation that I did the right thing. I was a good mom.
Good, good. I'm still waiting for that confirmation. One, you can deal with one. One, okay, I have one kid who went rogue on me,
Yeah,
and me and her are so much alike. Our birthdays are like 17 days apart or something, really close in
yeah.
age, right? But when two do it, then you really start to question yourself, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
like, I'm like about to, we'll talk about apologies in a second, but I'm like, wow, was I that bad? And I'm sorry I was your mom. I'm sorry. You got the bad end of the straw, because you really start thinking, I must have been bad. I have two children who's estranged from me. And it's kind of embarrassing to tell people, because
Yes.
then they look at you funny, right? They're like, well, you must have done something. How could two do it? One, I can see, but two? Two.
Yes, because people will ask, "What did you do to cause
Yeah.
your children to walk out of your life?" You must have done something
Something
absolutely horrible. You
horrible.
must have abused them. You must have emotionally, mentally, physically abused them, because normally children would never walk out of a loving mother's life.
No, never, right?
Never. No.
No. And that's not the truth, because I don't know. We can love so much. And I can honestly say, how old were you when you had your first one?
I was in the military. I was 20 years old when
Me too.
I had my daughter right before my oldest, right before my 21st birthday.
So I had mine right after my 20th birthday. I would turn 20th on December 1st, and she was born on the 18th. So
Yep.
same timeline, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So you're a Gen Xer like me, because we're going to talk about generational trauma too. But
mhm,
yeah, same thing. So I was a young mom. We grew up
mhm.
together, emotionally immature. I'm 100% sure, because I had so much
Yes.
trauma as a child. And
Yes.
with their dad, I had a bad 19-year marriage with their dad.
Yeah.
So, yes, did they see fighting? Yes. Did they see bad things? I'm sure. But
Yes.
I love them, right? I never abused them, I didn't think, but I may have emotionally not been there. So this is all stuff I've had to rethink as I've come out. We'll talk about, self-reflection too later on the show. But I just find it just so interesting. But I'm just like you, so flabbergasted. And at first, I probably was defensive. I was like, "What are you talking?" I even told them, "What are you talking about?" I had no clue, no clue. Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
And the first one really didn't ever tell me what was wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the first one, the oldest one, she says I should know. Okay, I should know. I know I don't know, because I thought I was doing right. And I was
Mhm.
raised by my mother, right? And we're trying to do better than they did. And then
Yes. Yes.
somehow I failed it, right? But my second daughter, she tried to give me chances. She encouraged me. She goes, "Why don't you go to therapy for your trauma?" And at first I thought it was a suggestion, until she came back later and said, "Why haven't you done therapy?" I said, "Well, I just haven't done it yet, because I think I'm good, because I'm spiritual. I've done a lot of healing on the spiritual realm part of it, right?" And she's like, "No, if you love me, you do it for me." I was like, "Well, I didn't know I had to do it for you, but I will." So I did. Like, okay, once you put it that way, you need me to go to therapy, I'm going to go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
What it did for me, though, it validated me. I love my therapist, because my daughter would tell me something and I would talk to my therapist and she would say, well, how would you handle that? And I would give her, well, this is what I'm doing. She goes, you're fine. You're fine. So it's just so crazy to me. And she still left, right? And this is the daughter that I spent $10,000 plus helping her
Right.
move. Like I was there. Anytime you need me, I'm gonna pick up the phone. Now, no one could ever tell me specifically where I was going wrong, right? It just is so crazy. And I'm sure you've had the same experience. So it really mind messes with you because they can't really articulate it correctly because they don't know. And I really believe that there's something within them that's just missing and void and they need healing and they need to heal. So, but right now it's about finding someone to blame for the pain, I guess. I don't know, you know?
Well, my experience, and I'll just keep it very short. I was raped in the military
Okay. Mm-hmm.
before I got pregnant with my first daughter. So I was sexually assaulted in the Army at the age of
Mm-hmm.
19.
I'm
I went
sorry.
on, I did not talk about it. I did not deal with it. I got up and moved on like I did with all of my traumas in life. You just get up and you move on. And after that, I ended up, within the year later, I got pregnant and I ended up marrying a man who was not kind.
Okay, that's a great cliffhanger. So hold that thought. We're going to go to a break and come right back. If you're watching Bull Bear TV, this is The Soul's Journey.
Okay.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to Bull Brave TV. You are watching The Soul's Journey with Tracy Escobar and my guest, Laura. Come on back, Laura. Hi, Laura. So we left off, you were talking about your husband. And so I just wanted to jump in and say, I love our story because we have a similar story. So I was also, I'm going to say SA'd, sexually abused before my daughter was born as well. So I get it. So we have some of the same trauma. So it's very interesting. So I'm going to let you talk about your husband now. So you got married and he wasn't so kind and you were really young, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I married him. He was not a kind person, but that's because when you have undiagnosed and untreated sexual trauma, you go on to choose people who re-traumatize you and devalue you, and who, because your worth is gone, your
Yes.
voice is gone, you gravitate towards people who basically do not value you at all.
Mhm.
There's no
No.
respect, no value, etc. And within that relationship, we had 2 daughters. Basically, I was with someone who continuously reminded me that I was called basically every name in the book, and I was told, "No man will ever want you.
Mhm.
You are damaged goods."
Mhm.
And that's what I heard the entire relationship. He never put his hand on me, but I always say living with someone who is emotionally traumatizing, it's like walking on a landmine. You never know when they're going to explode. And so I went through my marriage like that, and I kept thinking I have to leave this marriage because if I don't, my daughters will marry the same type of person.
Absolutely.
And so, was I a good mom? Absolutely. I loved my daughters with all my heart, despite my trauma, despite what I went through in my marriage.
Mhm.
I loved my daughters. And I told them that every day they were
Every
valued,
day.
they were
Mhm.
wanted. I I'm not going to say I'm not going to go into how much I spent on birthdays or what I did for them financial wise, but with my shattered heart, with my broken heart, I knew I gave my daughters every single piece of my heart, and I stayed with their dad because I didn't want he was a good father to the girls. He
Yep.
just wasn't a good partner for me. So I chose him, and it took a number of years until the girls were about 8 and 9 years old. And this is when I got the internet, and I finally started reaching out to people anonymously through those game rooms where we used to play spades on AOL games or whatever. And I started to say, I'm with someone who's not very kind. And the people, the anonymous people I was playing with, would say, "You don't have to live like this." So, from the power of the internet, I got the courage to tell him this is not gonna work anymore, and I was scared to death, and that's
Yeah.
the journey I took. What about you?
Yeah, so I got married as well, and my ex military went and served in Desert Storm right before my daughter was born. My daughter was born actually when he was about to deploy.
Mhm,
Came back, we got together. He already had another child with somebody else, so that's
mhm.
a layer of hurt that I was already dealing with. So I had a child, then he has a child in between my two girls. So let's give you that scenario. So if you can imagine my young self being hurt, devastated, and not knowing how to process probably those emotions. And he was bipolar. So I walked on eggshells for 19
Yeah,
effing, I'm going to say years. I
yes,
was in
yes,
fight or flight.
yes,
I
yes,
never knew what I was getting when I was coming home. He could be in a great mood. It's going to be a great night or not. Or I could be in trouble for something so minute and so little. It was crazy. And living like that, right? Or he didn't like the way I treated a kid, or I wasn't allowed to discipline. So he took the power away from me from disciplining because he was afraid I would lose control. Because I would lose control on him. I'll be
mhm,
100% honest because I
mhm.
didn't know how to process the anger that he was causing and the hurt, right? It's all underlying hurt, right? Couldn't
Yes,
process it. So he would never let me really discipline the kids. Yeah, it was just horrible. I don't even know how. I mean, I left because I was either going to die, I was going to
mhm,
commit suicide, or I had to leave, right? And there's this
yes,
interesting topic going around right now, and I'll ask you about it, codependency. And do you
mhm,
think I know I was codependent?
yes,
So I didn't leave because I knew. So for me personally, it took an affair to get me to leave, which is not the greatest thing either. But I don't know. That was my survival mode. I had to have an affair so I could leave because I was codependent. Okay,
mhm,
so that kind of ended our family, and I finally did leave. Our family split. My son went with my ex-husband, and my two girls came with me. So we had a split family at this point, just because my son was in sports. My son needed his dad, and I was fine with that. I'm not going to fight. You're close to your dad. I'm going to let you stay with your dad. I got the girls, but that's just kind of how it was. But it was a hard life, and you know how hard that is. And you had to make some tough choices for yourself. And I probably should have got out sooner and not waited 19 years. Then
yeah,
maybe they wouldn't have seen what they've seen. So for that, I apologize, right? Hindsight's always 2020. But I
mhm,
didn't want to give my kids a broken home. So I came from a broken home. So I'm hell
yeah,
bent on, I'm going to stay. I'm putting up with this. It's a marriage. You got to go for better, for worse. I'm staying until I just
mhm.
couldn't stay no more. And that's what happened with me. Yeah. Good dad,
Mhm.
bad husband,
Yep.
bad man, bad husband. Hmm.
I agree with
Hopefully,
you on
hopefully he's got
that.
it right now, but
Yeah.
then no. And I tell him, I wrote about him in my book, and I wasn't mean.
Mhm.
Like we were kids growing up, and then to be diagnosed with a mental disorder and hate that disorder and hate the what comes with being labeled that, and
Yes.
taking medicine sometimes and then choosing not to take medicine because I don't want to be that anymore. So those ups and downs of medication. So all
Mhm.
that you could probably understand where our household is, right? But our household was really interesting because we surrounded our whole life around children. We did soccer, we did baseball, we did football, we did everything was about the kids. Every weekend was about the kids. My husband once told me it's not about you until our kids are gone. So when I was dying inside and not being fed and not being given love, he said it's not about you until the kids are gone. So that
That's
gives you an
right.
idea of how our family ran. So I ran on empty, empty on love, empty on support. I would want to go back to school and he would sabotage me and not let me, right? If I wanted to go out with friends after work, I wasn't allowed to. So very controlling environment
Mhm.
and suffocating. And I wasn't allowed to be me. And so, yeah, that's where I was. Sound familiar?
Yes.
It
I
does.
was well, I was with someone who, because I had been in the military, he was in the military. I took an honorable get out, had our daughter, our first, then a second. And when I got out, I was still talking to the same girls I served with as medics. I have
Oh,
some medic friends, and I'd go see him, and he'd say, "Don't talk to them about me. Don't tell them anything about me. Don't
okay.
discuss their relationship." He didn't want anyone knowing anything about us, and I remember one thing
Yeah.
that came to mind was when we had our first daughter. I flew home. She was 6 weeks old to introduce her to our families. We were at Fort Lewis, our family was in Wisconsin, and I arrived, and my family was so excited to see me, and I didn't get a chance to call my husband to let him know I had touched down. So I called him later that evening, and he chastised me and said, "You need to get back home right now." So he demanded I leave within the week, earlier than expected. My dad went with me to the, airport to get my ticket exchange, and my dad paid for, because the military doesn't make much. My dad paid for me to leave early because my ex-husband or my husband then demanded I come back home. I know for me, until I finally realized my traumas
Hmm.
through I wasn't traumatized in my childhood. I just in my childhood didn't have a voice. I was raised in a Catholic family. You follow the
Hmm.
rules, you don't embarrass your parents, you're perfect, perfect, perfect. But it wasn't until my trauma in the military when I was not allowed a voice
Right.
that I basically ended up, even after my divorce, when my girls were 8 and 9, unfortunately, because I still was untreated, I chose to date, and then I would always choose people that didn't find my value or worth just because I didn't have any. I felt myself worthy as a mom.
Okay.
I felt myself worthy as a friend, as a sister, as a daughter, as a granddaughter, but not as a woman.
Not as a woman.
Not as a woman, because when you're assaulted or you've had that kind of trauma in your life, you don't feel as a woman you are worthy of a good man, of a man, the kind of, you're not worthy of a guy bringing you home to his parents, his mom, his grandma, because you're basically damaged goods. So, whatever all these men or your then husband tells you, you think whatever he's saying is true, because when your body has been violated, you
Mhm.
find yourself lesser valuable than other women who may have only had
Mhm.
one sexual partner, may have only been with one person, or whatever direction that goes. But yeah, you basically don't, you find value in all other arenas except valuable for a healthy
Healthy
relationship.
relationship. Hmm. I see that because I found my value at work. I'm an amazing employee. I'm an
Mhm,
amazing
mhm,
entrepreneur. I'm a like
mhm,
work, mm, right? I'm
yep,
valuable because people
mhm,
tell me I'm valuable, right?
yep,
But relationships, that's where I
no.
struggled. Mm-mm. No, I would put up with anything. Just love me, love me, love me,
Yeah,
please love me, right?
yes,
My parents were
yes.
divorced. So my dad, so I look back and like every man has
Mhm,
disappointed me in my life. My parents got divorced and my dad left.
mhm.
I still had a relationship with him. He was military, but he was always gone. He lived in Germany. I
Yeah,
lived in Texas.
yeah,
Got married. That was hella disappointing. Like, right?
yes, yes,
My stepdad molested me. There's another man I was supposed to have trusted, right? That
yes,
didn't work out. So it's like
mhm,
every man. When I left my husband, the man I left him for kept me hidden for 15 years because it was a
yeah,
product of an affair. So
yeah,
no value, no worth of myself in
mhm,
relationships, just like you. It's kind of interesting. You brought up your mom. Do you think because I am in TikTok, right? And right now this is a cult. There is so many estranged children and so many estranged mothers out there talking about this. And one mother calls it a cult, right? There's this whole thing. And you look on our Facebook group, I think there's like 6,000 people just on our
yeah,
Facebook group alone. And that's just one group, right?
yeah, yes,
So it's in people's faces and people are talking about it. And more kids are doing it every single day. So one of the TikTokers was talking about, well, maybe we were raised, we're all this Gen X generation, right? We're all early 50s, late 40s, kind of
yes,
going through this mess, right? Did it have to do with how we were raised? Like, we didn't question when we got spanked. We didn't question when we didn't disobeyed and we got in trouble. There was no, what's that called? Parenting, where you, I don't know, gentle parenting. There was no gentle parenting. You listened to, right? It was all Bible belt, like you rule by the rod or whatever, fear based parenting. And, we wanted to do so different. At least I did. I didn't want to do the same things. I didn't want my kids taking care of their siblings all summer. I didn't want
yep,
them having tons of chores. Like, I want you to be a kid. I don't remember getting told I love you. So I was like you. I was very intentional in telling them every night, I love you, I love you, I love you.
mhm.
And it still was wrong. It's just, right?
But you know what's changed though? It's
What?
it's this is what I feel. It's number 1, I married someone who was not a kind person, and when you divorce someone who's not a kind person, they will use your children as weapons against you.
Yeah, they do. Hmm.
And number 2, with the age of the internet,
Hmm.
anyone can log in and get support on the internet to disconnect from their parents, and they will be fed a million different reasons. Well, your mom gave you broccoli. Oh, she didn't give you broccoli. Oh my gosh,
Oh.
your mom let you stay up late. Holy cow. And
Hmm.
the truth be told is years ago, we compared our lives to our friends' lives and to Leave It to Beaver and
Yes.
the Brady Bunch, and it's always greener on the other side. But now with the internet, and I think the internet is wonderful because we're here because of the internet, but there is so much more support for any reason of estrangement, even if it's not founded or justified. And that is why I think it is so far gone and why there's so many estranged parents. And I'm not going to say, and I can't come up against anyone if they choose to estrange and they have a reason for the estrangement.
Right.
But unfortunately, when someone chooses to estrange a child from a parent as an adult, if you don't want to continue a relationship with someone, for instance, there was a girl that wanted to add me on Facebook from high school. And
Okay.
this was a girl who bullied me every single day in high school, and it was not till senior year that I stood up to her and we became quote unquote friends and ended the year out right. But then
Hmm.
she adds me on Facebook and I got a bad feeling every single time I saw her on Facebook. So I said to her, I sent her a message and I
Yeah.
said, I'm sorry, but every time I see you on Facebook, even though we ended off on a more positive note, I get a really bad feeling. So therefore, I can't continue to be friends with you on Facebook because we really aren't friends. And as an adult, especially our children, should be able to talk to us to say, hey, mom,
Mhm.
this is what happened when I was a kid. I would like to talk with you about it and get your side of the story. If you screamed once in a while, why did you scream?
Why?
Were you
Yeah.
stressed? Can you explain, like, my trauma led me to make decisions that caused myself to be mistreated by their dad. Why, mom, did you yell at us? Or why, mom, did you do this or
Mhm.
that? Or can you explain to me the reasonings behind your actions, which may have caused me to have fear, to cry, to not want to come home, to go live somewhere else, or to believe my friend's family was better than our
Better.
family?
Mhm.
That's unfortunately, as much as we want to say adult children, there's still a mindset that has not progressed into, and I don't want to say acting like an adult, but
Mhm.
as I remember my ex-husband's mother, she'd say, I'm mature, like more mature than you are. And she said that because of her age. And I said, maturity has nothing to do with age. Maturity means you should be able to call me, text me, say, hey, I would like to talk about something I'm concerned about so we can find a resolution. We can come to a happy medium about it. And maybe you don't change and I don't change, but then we just don't talk about certain things that are hot topics for us.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Easy. Nah.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
know. Oh, it's such a frustrating. I love talking about it because it's so frustrating. But when you talk about it with someone who's going through it, you feel sane again. You're like, okay, you're feeling the same way I'm feeling. It's like the same stories. It's the same. So thank you for sharing your story. Why do you think parents going through this stay stuck?
Well, I always equate it to the Al-Anon theory because my dad was an alcoholic. I went through Al-Anon, and you'll get into certain groups, and even in Al-Anon, you'll see someone that's been in Al-Anon for 10 years who is stuck as if it was their first day in the group.
Really? Yeah.
And they're continuously focusing on how can I fix my alcoholic? What do I have to do to get him or her to stop drinking? Just like estranged parents, we say, what do I have to do to get my kids to talk to me? What do I have to do to get my children? And a lot of people stay stuck. And the reason I'm no longer stuck is because I accepted my daughter's decision despite the fact it didn't make me happy.
Yeah.
I
Get
said,
it.
they're adults. I have my youngest daughter has 4 children. They don't know me, and I have not been a part of their lives. And I that's what people do every time I tell them they want to cry because
Yeah.
I used to want to cry too.
I know.
Every day I heard I had a new grandchild, it was
Mm.
a knife in my heart. Well, when I look at my children as individuals and I remove the mother factor from this situation, and
Mm-hmm.
I say, my daughters are not mine. They're not
Yeah.
my property. I don't own their minds, hearts, spirits, etc. When I decided to accept their decisions and I believed in my heart of hearts I did the best job I could, and that
Mm-hmm.
because I raised them and I was a survivor, I
Mm-hmm.
went to school and raised them. I said I gave them enough common sense to get out into this world and make something of themselves. And I hope every day that the love I pour into them, they pour into other people and they're making a difference in this world. It's as if someone's kidnapped your
Oh, and we lost her. We'll be right back with the Soul's Journey on Bull Brave TV Network.
Did you know that your Your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to Bold Brave TV Network. You're watching The Soul's Journey with Tracy Escobar. So I may have lost my guest. We're having some technical difficulties. We're going to try one more time and see if she's on. Laura, can you hear me? No? I can't hear you, but she can see me. Well, I'm going to let her. There she is.
Hi, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to talk.
Okay.
So I think we were leaving off just about her estrangement. And the one really cool thing about Laura is that she's on the other side of it. So I know we're having technical issues and we can't finish her interview, but I know her story and she's been doing videos and things. And so there is a possibility on moving forward, 100%. And we can take her off screen if you want. there is a possibility of moving forward. There is a possibility of no longer being stuck in this cycle of estrangement. And I always talk about, I feel really bad when my second daughter estranged. I was already 2 years into this. I'm done crying. I'm at that point where my identity isn't surrounded by being a mama and being a good mom anymore. I think I've kind of reached the journey of acceptance through the grief process, because it is grief. You grieve. You grieve for the relationships you had. I grieve crazily for the holidays that are no longer the same, right? So the grief journey was real for me. And I think I'm just at that place of accepting and understanding the bigger picture. And I think that's what's super important for your healing journey if you're going to go on one. If you're an estranged parent, it's so hard because you were so close to the situation, and the pain is undeniably painful. It really, truly is. But if you kind of want to zoom out for a bit and kind of see the bigger picture, we are all we're all a soul having a human experience. We're all on this planet to learn and to grow as an individual person. Yes, other people affect us. Yes, things happen to us. But ultimately, it's our responsibility to heal. It's our responsibility to grow. It's our responsibility to learn the lessons that we need to learn in this journey. And so I took that advice and I said, okay, if they are choosing to estrange from me, that's fine. There's something within them and me that is toxic, and they need to go heal that. And if me being around is more painful to them than it is helping them, then I have to be okay with that, or else I make it about me and not wanting to hurt. So if that makes sense, because we're all getting called narcissists. All of a sudden, there's a world full of narcissist mothers right now. And so, undiagnosed, can I just make sure I add that? So they're throwing this term around because we're making it about us. Well, the pain is so harsh. We're mothers. They were in our womb. Of course we make it about us. So I encourage you to pull yourself away and look at it from your children's perspective and say, if this is what they need to heal, I'm going to allow them to do that. And it's not always easy to know what to do in this situation. There's no rule book, right, for anything. There's no rule book for parenting. There's no rule book for estrangement either. I know people who have beat doors down, gone over, knocked doors, sent gifts, and gotten restraining orders put against them. So I know that. I know other people who have just allowed and respected the boundary that was placed in front of them. And that's the road that I'm taking. I'm taking the road of acceptance and accepting the boundaries that they've placed with me. Now, I always hope for reconciliation. My door is always open, but I choose in my life to move forward. I'm at the place in my healing journey where I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, right? So I know for me, I can't allow that to negatively affect my life because I'm in a good place finally, right? But I can love them. I don't go search out their Instagrams. I don't go look for anything because I don't want to hurt me anymore. So I have to control my hurt. And seeing all that, seeing what they talk about me, seeing all the nasty things that they may say, that's not something I want to know about. So I choose to just disconnect from that and pull myself away from that. And I don't even engage in that. So I protect my feelings that way. And I just choose to live and be happy. And if people ask, I'm not embarrassed about it. Yes, I have 2 estranged daughters right now. And it is what it is. And I can just hope for reconciliation one day. So Jasmine and Jordan, I love you so much. Hopefully one day we can put this all past us and we can come to the table like adults and talk about it, right? Life is a journey. Life's not easy. I can tell you the one thing I've done for myself is I do a lot of self-reflection. And I can say that I am sorry. You probably were raised in a really tough place just because of the volatility of our relationship with your dad, my trauma. But I'm in a really good place. And I'm finally learning through your leaving. One of the good things I learned is I just didn't know how to communicate correctly. And I think that's an underlying barrier that happens as well, is that we are never taught how to communicate. So I would always want to relate to you. I would always want to parent you. I would always want to give you advice. I'd always want to fix you. Maybe you just needed me to listen. So I do want you to know that I've taken that into consideration. And so any other parents out there listening, just listen to the words that I'm saying. Self-reflect. What could we have done different? And just admit it and go on, right? But Don't let it ruin who you are anymore. Don't let yourself cry. Here's a great book, I'm Done with Crying. I recommend it to anybody going through this journey. I'm done with crying. So with that, I'm going to end this show on adult-child estrangement. I'm going to thank Laura, and sorry we had some technical difficulties, but Laura, thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey with me. I'm sure it's going to help someone out there. There's a lot of mamas out there who would rather choose death than have this estrangement. So we're trying to save some lives, and I want to thank Laura for, it's scary to put ourselves out there, but she did it, and I'm doing it, and I hope others will too. And we'll be back next week. I have a guest next week. We're going to talk about child loss and having that experience this lifetime. Super, super hard. But you're watching The Soul's Journey on Bold Brave TV Network. Thank you for watching our very first show. And until next time, until we meet again, have a great night.
This has been The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. Tune in each week and be inspired through the voices of those living the journey and those who have already passed on. Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV Network.